What's at stake at this election is really what kind of country we want to become.
People our age start to see that their vote matters.
And that in order to really impact politics, they need to get out and vote and voice their political opinion.
Penn Democrats is the student wing of the Democratic Party on campus. So, we're one of the largest clubs on campus. We have a lot of really active, engaged members who are looking forward to making a difference in this election.
Just want to help each other. I think that that's the kind of core value, is just how can we as a collective get together and do something that's going to benefit the whole country and not just like a certain group or a certain group of people. And I think that that's something that I care about a lot, and I think a lot of people care about, and I think that's something that is going to make this election obviously a lot more important.
Penn for Liberty is an organization at Penn that's dedicated to defending the principle of liberty and advocating for a freer society. So we cover a variety of political issues, anything relating to the free market or the Bill of Rights, we're on it.
And Young Americans for Liberty is very closely affiliated with Penn for Liberty. Penn for Liberty started up as a chapter, Penn's chapter for Young Americans for Liberty, which I'll just refer to as YAL. So, YAL is very endowed with the liberty movement, not necessarily libertarianism, but just sort of projecting these ideas that, we need to promote and defend, basic constitutional liberties that everyone in America has.
I think Penn students are really concerned about climate change. They're really concerned about student affordability. We have a massive student debt crisis in this country. So Penn students are really worried about that. And I think that they're worried about, what the future holds. They're worried about how this pandemic has made it so that they can't even go back to school and see their friends. They can't have in-person classes. It's taken a toll on their families financially and physically. And they're really worried about, having a president who can control the pandemic so that we can actually get back to a normal life one day.
Number one would be criminal justice. I think that's a huge focal point of our organization. Last fall, we held an event with Matthew Charles, who was released under President Trump's First Step Act, which changed sentencing disparities among different drugs. I think drug legalization in general is a huge issue for us, as we see it as a serious human rights violation to throw people in a cage for possessing something that really is just not a harm to anyone else but themselves, in many cases not a harm to themselves. So we focused a lot on criminal justice, especially on, changing the sentencing disparity and on the drug legalization issue. I think in the club as a whole as well, we're also focused on free speech as an issue, because we see today that there is an attempt to clamp down on the ability to express one's opinion, especially if you're on a certain side of the political spectrum. And I think that that's a really, really dangerous force to our democracy, just because, the right to free expression is what stands at the foundation of every functioning democracy.
We're a huge organization, so we have a lot of different, a wealth of issues that people care about. For me personally, I am extremely passionate about healthcare policy, and that's something that drives my passion for democratic politics, because I want to make sure we live in a country where everyone has access to healthcare. But our membership ranges from healthcare to criminal justice is a really big one. A lot of people care a lot about race relations, and obviously me too. And I think that that's something that drives a lot of our members to be active and to try to push for change. And I think, so those are some of the big ones. We also get a lot of people who care about like women's rights and the Supreme Court, and we get people who care about the environment. That's obviously a really big issue, and just like a very broad range of topics.
Making sure that everyone has their right to free speech, making sure that everyone can get involved in the political process, making sure that the government doesn't become too big, really looking at the Constitution and the ideals the founders laid out and trying to get representatives into office at every level of government so that they can promote those ideals.
Of our activism prior to the pandemic would involve going out on Locust Walk, passing out pamphlets, raising awareness on various issues, having frank conversations with people walking by. But obviously that's just not possible given the nature of the pandemic. So what we've done is we've shifted online, and we've been holding weekly meetings discussing a variety of political topics. For example, last week we did one on the importance of the Electoral College. It was really a debate, but we reached the conclusion that it's incredibly important for our democracy.
In going door to door and knocking for candidates, or phone banking for candidates, or really working to get local and state representatives elected. And the pandemic has, clearly made added difficulties to that method. Door-to-door knocking is a lot harder now because you want to stay away from people and all that, but you still have this you still do phone banking, and you still try as hard as you can to really get those liberty-minded representatives elected.
So student activism, I was a freshman in Dems in 2018 for the midterm elections, and it was very different then. What we did was we did do a lot of phone banks and things like that, but we also did a lot of canvassing. We would go door to door, knock on people's doors and kind of ask them about their voting. We would get on trains and go to the suburbs. We also would go around campus and try to get all of our other fellow students to vote. We would table on Locust Walk, and that's kind of what we would do in a normal semester. But obviously in a pandemic, it's very different, but also in a way kind of similar. I think the primary method that we do right now is a lot of phone banking. So we do a lot of calls to try to make sure that everyone knows what their vote, where they can vote, how they can vote, what's on the ballot.
A lot of work getting people fired up and making sure everybody has the information they need to vote. But I hope that when it's all said and done, we'll be able to win this thing and make a difference.
People associate political activism by just joining a political community, but there's a lot more towards it. There's a lot more towards just talking to people. There's actually trying to get people elected. I think that is a very valuable thing to do, both for personal experiences and for the sake of the country at large.
It just makes me really excited to see that there are other students on campus who really care about these issues, and a lot of people who are willing to get involved and try to make sure everyone's voice is heard.